Hello and welcome to At Brookings. I'm Gigi Hinton. On the podcast today, we'll have a panel of experts talking about the illicit drug trade and organized crime affecting a number of Latin American countries. Then in White House Watch, Governance Studies Director Darrell West talks about the impact of President Obama's first overseas trip. And the man on the street will opine about Cuba and the U.S. We'll have all that coming up next on At Brookings.
This is At Brookings, a review of news and events the week of April 6, 2009.
The Latin American Commission on Drug Policy recently released its report, Drugs and Democracy, towards a paradigm shift at a launch in Washington, D.C., hosted by the Brookings Institution. Latin American Initiative Director Mauricio Cárdenas opened the forum.
But essentially what this commission, the Brookings Commission, said is that there has to be a shift in terms of the policies that are used to deal with the drug problem, and more emphasis should be placed on demand, consumption, and less emphasis on eradication.
We need to keep fighting narco trafficking in the way we are doing, or even with more emphasis, using all the resources for that, and not putting consumers on jail.
At the level of the political system in this country, I see no evidence whatsoever of anything other than a moral debate. And I think that one of the tragedies of the debates, of the debate on narcotics in this country is that it has become primarily a moral debate, in which any attempt to relax a punitive approach is seen as a sign of irresolution in the face of wickedness. And you know, sure enough, when evil is placed at the center of the discussion, then it becomes totally pointless to argue in terms of the cost and benefits of alternative policy approaches. You know, when evil is the issue at stake, surely no price is too high.
I think in general it's definitely a good idea to start opening dialogue with Cuba.
I think it's a good idea for President Obama to normalize relations. I think in the past we've seen with a lot of countries that trying to cut them off doesn't really achieve the goals we're trying to achieve. So I think it is a good idea.
And I think at this point we can sort of get over the whatever, Red Scare issues we've had.
So that's what I think.
President Obama has completed his first trip abroad since taking office. Over the course of the week, Mr. Obama met with G20 and NATO leaders before heading to Turkey and finally Iraq. Governance Studies Director Darrell West says the president's trip was a diplomatic one that yielded some substantial gains.
It mostly was a trip of diplomacy. It was a chance for Obama to meet the major world leaders from a number of countries around the world. There were some substantive gains that came out of this. I mean, for example, we're getting 5,000 additional European troops for Afghanistan. There's going to be greater coordination in terms of the international economic stimulus front, but there weren't huge policy gains either on foreign policy or in terms of improving the economy. So it really was much more an effort for Obama to establish his personal relationships with these foreign leaders. This trip strengthened Obama's position within the United States. When you look at the national public opinion surveys that have come out, his job approval rating now has risen. It's up to the mid-60s, which is a great number for any American president. People are actually starting to get more optimistic about our own domestic economy. They're feeling better about the U.S. position around the world. So the challenge for Obama now is to turn that public popularity into public policy successes, to make progress on education, on health care, and on energy.
At Brookings is produced by the Brookings Institution. To learn more about the issues discussed on At Brookings, visit our website at brookings.edu.